obviously will let you down most times.
Are we just going to sit here for the next 10 years and say the same thing about Tottenham well done in the Champions League?
What has gone wrong with Tottenham Hotspur?
The Same Old Spurs podcast with Majestic and Gaza.
Welcome along to the Same Old Spurs podcast with myself, Majestic, aka Kev, and my good friend
Gaza.
And it's a preview show this morning or this evening, whenever you're listening to it, of the big one, Tottenham versus Chelsea. So it makes sense to get on a big Chelsea fan and TV royalty and TV football royalty. Mr. Tim Lovejoy joins us, Gaz.
Yeah, fantastic guest. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me on your podcast, guys.
Listen, I know
not that I really want to be on a Spurs podcast. Truth be known, but you know, let's do it.
This is the thing with our podcast, Tim. This is why we like to talk to other fans of other clubs, because as you can tell by the title of our podcast, The Same Old Spurs, we are very aware of what we are as a team and a football club. We love our club dearly, and as 34-year-olds that we are now, we haven't seen too many honours in our lifetime. So it's good to speak to other clubs and just have a bit of banter back and forth, because at the end of the day, as football fans, we appreciate good football teams
100%.
and good football clubs. And obviously your team, Chelsea, have won a hell of a lot in recent times.
Yeah, we didn't win anything for ages. We used to look up to Spurs because you had a couple of cup runs. I don't think you won the league since 60-something, did you?
61.
Was it 60?
61, we won the double.
61. So you've not won the league for a while, but you used to win the FA Cup. We never won that until 97. So, you know, well, it was since the 70s. But, you know, so Spurs were sort of like a better club. But we've sort of dominated you, haven't we, for years now? We're winning so much.
Definitely. Even obviously the other day when we were talking football, you mentioned actually going to watch Spurs because of the likes of Glenn Hoddle and like Ozzy Ardiles. You know, talk to us, as you said, before, you know, Chelsea obviously had those amazing times. Even pre-Abramovich, obviously, you had the Cup Winners' Cup runs, and like in sort of the mid-90s when Gianluca Vialli and Ruud Gullit came into the club. Before then, what was it like, you know, in sort of your era of growing up with that rivalry between Tottenham and Chelsea?
Yeah, a massive rivalry. I always thought it was weird because we hated the Spurs. West Ham hates Spurs. Arsenal hates Spurs. Poor Spurs are the team that everybody in London seems to hate. But we have massive rivalry. I mean, if you ask Chelsea who their rivals are, it's always Leeds and Spurs. You know, they're the big ones. And I started going and watching the 80s, so that was when it was really big. Then I had a whole period of time when I didn't really go to Chelsea a lot to football because I was playing so much. So I didn't, all the Andy Townsend playing for Chelsea, Vinnie Jones era, I was never there. I was playing myself. But, you know, 80s I went a lot, and then 90s I went a lot as well. Yeah, always good rivalries between us. But yeah, you're right. You've had some amazing players at Spurs. Just never seemed to be able to put it together to win the league.
Is there any player that sort of stood out for you, Tim, in the early days when you was watching Spurs play?
You've had the two best players England's ever created in my mind, which is Glenn Hoddle's the best ever, and Paul Gascoigne's the second best. You know, obviously I don't know Charlton and all that lot because I'm not old enough, but the players I've seen, Glenn Hoddle is just what he can do with the football, and I've actually played football against him. He's just insane. It's how good he was. And Paul Gascoigne, again, what an amazing player. It's unbelievable that you've had those two players and you couldn't win the bloody league, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. You've got two players like that, but you've got some of the rest of the team not quite up to scratch. Let's move on to the cup.
What is it Bill Shankly used to say? He said something like, you need 11 players. What was it? I can't remember now. You need 11 players to play You need 11 players to play the piano. It's like playing the piano. You need 11 players. I'm so mucking this up. It goes. He says you need 8. He says you need 8 to carry it and 3 to play it, and you probably only ever had 1 to play it.
Yeah,
or not enough players to carry it.
This is true. This is the thing. It is where we're at with Spurs. Is the very nearly team. Obviously, the Champions League final against Liverpool, getting there in such dramatic fashion. And, you know, we obviously turned to one of your ex-guys in Jose Mourinho in recent times. Talk to me about Chelsea's relationship with Jose Mourinho, how you feel about him now, and obviously the Mourinho era as a Chelsea fan.
Well, I love Jose because he won us the league, so you've got to love him. But he came into the club. What he did, he walked into Stamford Bridge, and I've always said this, he made the players believe they could win the league. He made the fans believe that we could win the league, and he also made the opposition believe we could win the league, I think. And there was, he just got so much out of all those Chelsea players, and it was such an amazing time for us. He was so charismatic. I met him on a couple of occasions. Just such a brilliant guy. There was a stage where on Soccer M, none of the big managers would let us have any players on the show. So Sir Alex would never let us have any players to do the crossbar challenge or anything. And then Liverpool said no. Then Arsenal said no. It was just like this. Loads of teams said no. And Jose went to John Terry. You need to get yourself on that show. Come on, do crossbar challenge, because he understood the media and he played it. But that old Jose is not what's happening now, is it? It's. I find that he got the absolute best out of players like Joe Cole. Whereas you've got Dele Alli at Spurs and you've got Gareth Bale, and they're two of the great players. They're not even in the starting lineup. So it's kind of, I don't know what he's doing now. It's kind of weird.
I do think, though, that Chelsea side that he had, especially in the first time, was a top side. You look at Spurs' defence now with say Eric Dyer, Ben Davies when he's had to come in. Eric Dyer's a bit off form. Toby Alderweireld's not probably where he was a couple of years ago. You look at what Jose had with John Terry and Carvalho and Ashley Cole. He really had. He did have a really good defence that he could build on. Then he had a lot of money to spend with it, and he did bring in a lot of top players. So I do think it's slightly different where he's at now than when what it was with that Chelsea squad, especially initially. What's your thoughts on that, Tim? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but I thought we played exciting football, and this, I think Jose in recent years, everyone knew you only needed a season ticket for the second half at Chelsea. He always kept it really tight in the first half. Second half, he'd just throw everyone up front, score a goal, and then shut up shop again. But that's the way he played. But it was very, there was some really exciting football being played. These days, you watch some Spurs matches, they're good, but under Poch, you were unbelievable to watch, weren't you? I mean, I always wonder this about with football fans, because I always say there's more to watching football than just winning. You want to watch something good as well at the same time. And Spurs, it's interesting talking to you guys, because you've had a great tradition of having some absolutely amazing football teams and some amazing footballers. So when you've got Jose, when he does do the let's park the bus or let's get Harry Kane tackling back in the penalty box, are you a bit like, what are we watching here? Do you know what I mean?
Well, this is it. Gaz has said all the time on the podcast, every week we do it. Yeah. He's clock watching against Man City, clock watching Arsenal, clock watching. It's like we're counting down the minutes for the game to end. It's like in those instances, we were lucky enough to get the goals and take our chances, and there were very few chances. But having Harry Kane and Son gives you sort of maximum potential to take those chances. But the rest of the game was a slog to watch. And there hasn't been many games, if any game, this season that we've enjoyed playing under Jose. And that, as you said, mentioned before, under Pochettino, there was a season, the season we went unbeaten at White Hart Lane, which was incredible. Watching us, I think most pundits said, Spurs are, the team to watch. We enjoy watching them play. But we're in this situation now, Tim, where we've got this monkey on our back, which is Spurs haven't won anything since 2009. So we need to win something. So there's almost like there's this relationship between us and Jose, even as fans. It's like, look, we'll tolerate it if you go and win us a cup. And it's just kind of like a relationship that's working on both parts, because for him, you know what Jose's like. He's not going to be here for very long. If he wins something with Spurs, he goes away doing his normal three, and I win cup with Tottenham. Tottenham crap, I win. Do you know what I mean? That's what he'll do. And then we've won something and we move on again. A lot of the Spurs fans now are really on the manager's back. And as I said to you on Sunday, obviously, we're going to talk about Frank Lampard and Chelsea. We don't have an emotional connection to Jose. So now the results ain't going his way, the fans are on his back. As a Chelsea fan who has won things with Jose, would you suggest we stick with him? Or, this kind of football as fans, we're not accepting. So are you saying, as someone that's won something under a manager, do you say, look, stick with him because he'll win you something?
Well, what do you think? Because I mean, you're the like I told you this story before. I think I told you it when you came on my show on Sunday. Look, I think there's more to supporting a club than just winning all the time. And I remember under Roman Abramovich, we've had a really weird time. If I just like briefly go through Frank here, but he's Roman is it's. I mean, we're a trophy club under him, right? And we're his plaything. And what he did was amazing, bringing all that money in, and we had amazing players, and go on to win all those things. It was fantastic. But the flip side of it is, I look over one day and I see Rafa Benitez sitting in our dugout, and he's our rival, and he's our manager all of a sudden. And I'm like, how the hell does this happen? This is. I've met Rafa Benitez, by the way, top man, really lovely bloke, but I didn't want him as our gaffer. He was Liverpool's manager, and we hated him, and we fell out with him. That's part of football, isn't it? Rivalry. You've had it at Spurs with George Graham,
yep.
But and now you've got Chelsea's manager, who's like one of our greatest all-time manager, probably, sitting in your dugout. It's a bit weird. And so what do you feel about it? Is it if he just wins you a scrappy cup, are you happy with that?
I think, unfortunately for Spurs, there's this stigma about not winning trophies. It's gone on for too long. He's been brought into the club for me to just do that. The problem that I have, and I said it on my podcast the other day, I'm with Jose to the end of the season. But after that, start of next season, we've got to have a new manager. And you can't play this football week in, week out. If there was, I said it on the podcast the other day, if there's fans in the ground, there's uproar over Tottenham. The level of football this year has been so poor. And what's disappointed me in the manager is that he hasn't. I don't get why he hasn't mixed it up. He's gone the same way, even if it hasn't worked the previous week. He goes with it again, the stubbornness. And you only got to see how he's acted with Dele Alli and Sergio Aurier at times. He's such a stubborn guy at times. And it's been so disappointing the football to watch, and I can't see it next year. I'd like to see someone start us off next year with a positive approach and go and play some good football, because that's what Tottenham are all about. Trophies or not, we always ever try to play some good stuff, haven't we?
And back to what Tim was saying, I do really think, because I was speaking to my dad about this yesterday, and what was my dad, 64, and he's old school Tottenham, and for him having Jose Mourinho as a manager is a problem. Yeah. So I do think there is a level of generational things where a football club, as you said, means a lot more. It's just like, hang about, you manage that club there, I don't want you at my club. Do you know what I mean? I think that as even when we was talking to Simon the other day with football, it doesn't feel like football anymore, does it? It just feels like a commercial commodity. And these managers like Jose Mourinho, doesn't matter that he's been at Chelsea, his CV says he's a big club manager, he might win you something, so we're going to remove all emotion and feeling. And I think that's where football's at the moment, Tim.
But football was better. Football was better in the 80s, guys. I keep telling on my podcast, I have a bloke called Blake who's a young kid, Derby. Well, young kid, he's in his 20s, Derby fan, and he has to stop me from going, football was better in the 80s all the time. But I love football in the 80s. I was telling you, Majestic, actually, when I was a kid, you mentioned at the top of the show, I actually used to go up to, I only did it once at White Hart Lane. I went up there. I sometimes go to Arsenal as well, because I like watching good football. I was obsessed with football, playing it and watching it. And because I wanted to go and watch Hoddle play with our dealers and all that lot, and you were playing Villa, and I love Gary Shaw and Tony Morley and those guys. Gary Shaw, I took a picture of Gary Shaw. Do you remember him? He used to play in the midfield for Villa, and I took a picture, or sort of striking midfield. Took a picture of him into the hairdresser and said, "Cut my hair like Gary Shaw." It's just like, I just loved it. I love football so much. So but that team that you had in those days, that Spurs team, Jesus Christ, they were amazing. Great era, the 80s for Spurs.
Yeah, it was. Tim, just back on that Mourinho thing, just quickly though. Daniel Levy, obviously splits opinion. If Jose Mourinho delivers a trophy for Tottenham this year, surely that's job done from him. The stigma's over.
Yeah, well, your problem at Spurs is, right, so you got a good team and you had a good chance under Poch, but, City and Chelsea, look, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we just spent over 300 million quid on players. Yeah, it's just, and then we sat Frank to bring in and pay him. Roman spent 120-something million on compensation for managers he sacked. It's in a different level. It's not a fair playing field, but it never was, because United and Arsenal have always had more money, and Liverpool than anyone else. But, Chelsea and City, their spending power is ludicrous now. And so, Spurs had that chance, I think, and they probably still have it a bit because Harry Kane's still there. And, and Sonny, they're two fantastic players and they can win you matches. But it's tough when you're competing against the squads of City and Chelsea, isn't it?
Most definitely.
100%. Do you think, let's talk about Chelsea now and talk about your season so far. Assessment of the season. It's halfway through. The manager's been sacked. I said to you again on Sunday when I was on your Sunday brunch show about, I think it was unfair on Lampard, especially for what he did last season with the limitations that he had. obviously you're a big Chelsea fan. There's an emotional connection there. But just as a footballing man, do you think it was fair that he got the sack?
No, well, no. It's just, I personally would have sat down and said, do you need some more staff to come in to help you here? Because maybe you need to. My problem with Frank this season was it was a different team every week. And I think half the time they look like they might not recognise each other. But I know Frank, he's so smart. He loves the game. There's not a chance that he wouldn't be a success or will go on to be a success. I promise you. The guy knows his stuff. And I just think he was trying to get the players to gel. But we should have given him time. It was really lovely to have Frank at the club, being a Chelsea man through and through. It was such a lovely thing for us to buy into. Like, you've got to know at Chelsea, the two things about being a Chelsea fan is, we'll never play any youth players because we can buy someone in better. And if a manager doesn't do any good, he's out the window immediately. And I thought we'd changed. So it got really exciting when Frank came in. Suddenly he's playing Tammy and Mason and all those players, and bringing through, Chelsea kids basically who grew up with the club. And I was like, this is fantastic. It's really lovely to see. United have that privilege of always seeing their kids come through. And it was nice to actually see it happen. And Frank understood it, knew it, and he was gonna play those players. And suddenly this season, I think he might have had too many players this season. That might have been his problem. Maybe that is the thing he had to learn to do, is a squad that big with all of those names, trying to fit them in 11 positions every week.
As an outsider, Tim, watching that Chelsea setup, I know when you go down to Chelsea, they've got a big thing outside the ground of how many trophies they've won. Roman Abramovich, a big part of that. The business model for Chelsea's actually worked. It works for Chelsea. They don't mind chopping and changing with managers because they just win. They're never too far away from winning a trophy. Frank Lampard or not, if you're not getting results and you spent 250 million or 200 million, whatever it was in the summer, you're going to inevitably get the chop if you don't pick off like the other man, like what Roman wants you to be like. He winning is Chelsea's thing, and if you're not doing it, you move on.
Yeah, two things about that. One, he's not really reading the room because the Chelsea fans love Frank, and I think it was supposed to be our club at one stage.
Yeah,
and we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's ridiculous results going on all over the place, and there's no crowds. There's no. Frank hasn't got any support from Stamford Bridge. There's not much home advantage at the moment for any of these managers or anything like that. Yeah. So he's not reading the room with that in the respect that we actually wanted him as our manager. And the other thing is, I have a bit of a problem with it. Again, we're in a pandemic. We don't really want cutthroat shit going on. There's people losing their jobs everywhere. I think we need a bit of empathy. So it was a really strange decision. It was like obviously Roman's just carried on normal. If we're not winning, you're going.
That's right. Yeah.
But I don't know. I keep saying this on my podcast, which is you've got to realise if you're in the top half of the Premier League, you're no longer a fan, you're a customer. And I've got to go along with, it's not like all the fans were going, get him out, holding up signs going, get rid of the gaffer. No one was doing that. Everyone was supporting. I mean, there was a few idiots who were going, let's get rid of him because we want to win the league every year. But there's most of us were going, let's support Frank. He's one of ours. It's just so bizarre that the gaffer just goes, I'll get rid of him. And I think I said to you on Sunday, I feel like I'm more or less sort of like supporting his yacht or something at the moment. I'm not sure what I'm supporting because, we actually like something and we want to get behind it and we want to get behind him playing the youth and we want to get behind Frank. We want to get behind all this stuff. And suddenly it's been just ripped up and taken apart. And, new fella Tuchel, he looks like he's going to be great, but we were all right with Frank. So I don't know. It's weird. And it just sort of makes me feel a bit like the club can become a bit soulless sometimes, unless we're winning the league.
Do you think the appointment of the new gaffer TT is coincides with trying to get the best out of someone like Timo Werner? Because obviously the German connection, he knows him well from the Bundesliga, and you paid big money for him. Once he gets off the ground, we always talk about how much 100%. We love that player. He's going to be phenomenal. Do you think that plays a part in having him come in as well and that German connection?
Yeah, 100%. But was it Frank's fault he wasn't scoring goals?
Well, the buck lies at the manager, doesn't it, in the chairman's opinion?
Kept putting the ball wide.
There was also rumours about Rudiger had something to do with Lampard's sacking as well. I read that today. How much do you think he lost part of the dressing room? Because obviously, I know Danny Drinkwater put up that bit of insensitive celebration in his Leicester shirt when Frank got the chop. Do you think he'd lost some of the players in that dressing room?
I think it's really hard to keep the dressing room together in this day and age, isn't it? I mean, you're looking now. People are talking about Harry Kane leaving your mob. And, people start talking. It's tough to keep a dressing room together. And if people aren't getting a game and they're not, and people are, that's why Klopp he's been so brilliant so far because he's kept the dressing room together, hasn't he?
100%.
And you watch him, right? He comes in and he just gets players that he's not too keen on. You see him. And I think he might have not been that keen on Daniel Sturridge, Chelsea's old player. And he's doing well at Liverpool with Suarez up front, wasn't he? And Klopp, he got injured and Klopp was going, yeah, Daniel Sturridge is great. I can't wait for him to come back. As soon as he came back, he got rid of him. And I just thought that's so quickly he got rid of his world-class player. He clearly thought that wasn't a guy for his dressing room. Don't know why, but he didn't. And so, Sir Alex Ferguson was the greatest at this, wasn't he? Running the dressing room, getting it down, and it's like I heard it. We talked about it on my podcast this week. A great story of when Eric Cantona went in the crowd and did his kung fu kick. Apparently, I can't remember which player now tells the story. He went around in the dressing room going, "You are shit. You're bad. You need to put more effort in." And then he went to Eric Cantona, "Mate, you can't be doing that anyway." It's just like, he's just got in the crowd and kicked the shit out of someone. It's like, but he knew how to look after Eric because he's a big superstar. And I think that's a tough thing to do. I think Jose might be struggling with that a bit. Gareth Bale's body language is all over the place, isn't it? Like, what's he doing? He's just sitting there not looking like he cares. But Gareth Bale, I mean, how good a footballer is he? For you boys and for Madrid, he was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he's definitely the best I've seen in the last 10 years. He's up there. Him and Harry Kane, fantastic. So you look at the comparisons there with Lampard and say Mourinho. Mourinho, you could argue, not quite getting the best out of these Spurs players. Dele Alli, Gareth Bale. Also Frank at Chelsea. Kai Havertz, one of the most sought-after players in the summer. Timo Werner, not getting the best out of them. Is that why inevitably he got the chop? As we said, big investment in the summer. Do you reckon that's the main reason he got the chop? He was doing things. I know that I listen to TalkSport a lot of an evening. You get a lot of Chelsea fans ringing up, and they were fuming with what he was doing tactically on the pitch as well. So it all splits opinions, Tim, doesn't it, really?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. And as I keep on saying, I think he ended up with too many playing staff in the end. And it's a juggle in it. When you've got that many good players, and you've got to fit them all in the team. I think there's only 11 people on a pitch at one time. And he's got 22 great players. He's got to try and do something. Well, I say 22. The defence wasn't fantastic. But up front, I mean, he's got an abundance of midfield and strikers. And to try and keep them all happy. I mean, we changed our striker every week. Every other week. It was a kind of a weird thing to do. For a fact that when Spurs put out their team, Harry Kane's up front. You know that, and he's going to score, and he's a good player. We don't know who our striker is.
100%. What would you say that you're sort of, if you was the gaffer going into Thursday's game, like what's your strongest 11? How does that look, Tim, right now? Because I think at Spurs, we often struggle with looking at our defence and going, what's the best defence we can play, etc. And the crowd get on Jose. We played some insane. Like, I think we had 3 in the middle against Fulham at home with some crazy formations, etc. If you're the manager going into Thursday's game, how does a Chelsea team look for you, Tim?
Do you know? I just don't know at the moment.
That's it, right?
The team changes so often that you have no idea. That was like we had Ranieri years ago, the Tinker Man. He changed the team all the time, played players all over the place. And I just think that was the only problem with Frank. But I think we could have just given time. I really don't know. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Tammy Abrahams. I'd like to start him up front, but Timo Werner, who would you just don't know. And you don't know where their heads are at now, do you? We'll have to wait and see. That was the one interesting thing about being Chelsea this year is you never know what the team is. You're gonna get to see every week. It's a different team.
Tim, when I look at Chelsea,
by the way,
go on. No, yeah, just quickly. When I look at that Chelsea team, I used to look at Drogba, and then it went into to Costa, and I look at the forwards that you got at the club now with Tammy and Giroud. Like, none of them are anywhere near to the level of Drogba and Costa, and I find it strange with the amount of money and investment that they've spent over there. that they haven't gone and bought a top forward.
But who is there?
But they're out there. You've got to go and get them. Like they're there. They're available. I just find it strange. Like you look at them forwards at Chelsea, Drogba, Costa, and them two were at the heart of everything and winning big trophies for Chelsea consistently, and they just haven't replaced them.
Strong strikers, though. Is it
big strikers?
Where are those big, strong strikers like that now? I mean, I don't know where they are.
Yeah, but I think Chelsea are better than Tammy Abraham up front. Definitely.
We love him because he's one of ours. You know, I think he'll be a good player. I think he'll come good. You know, I think he's already good, and I think he'll come really good. You don't fancy him?
No, I think Chelsea are a massive, massive football club, and I think they're better than Tammy Abraham up front. He's a very, very good player. He gets into most Premiership sides without doubt. Is he good enough to start for Chelsea up front? Not in my opinion, but football's so subjective.
I suppose realistically, the only person that would fill that role that you're talking about, the Drogba, the Costas, would be a Lewandowski. That's the level of Chelsea in a striker. Realistically,
but then you go and look at the lad at Borussia Dortmund. What's the big lad at Borussia Dortmund?
Oh, Haaland.
Yeah, Haaland. Like he was available. He went to Borussia Dortmund. They are out there. I just found that one a bit strange with Chelsea over the last few years.
How do you rate yourself against Chelsea then? Your mob, because you said we're a massive club. Do you see yourself as a massive club?
Is that typically you? Go on, Kev. I'll let you answer that.
Well, we'll both answer it. But in terms of where we're at in terms of competing now, we are now established as a top 6 side, which is something that we've been trying to do for a long time. It was a top 4 before, wasn't it? It was Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea. And then in the last sort of 10, 15 years, obviously, Man City have come through, obviously, the investments and the wins that they've had and the players that they've had. And in the last, I'd say, since Poch, realistically, but it was a building process since Martin Jol when he came in after Santini. We're now a top 6 club. It's the big 6. I tell you when I saw the change, Tim. I was in Bristol doing a show, right? And I went to the JD in Bristol and there was a Spurs shirt in there. Right, so growing up, like you know, when you used to go to like Tenerife on holiday or whatever, and they had the knockoff shirts, there was always a Chelsea, there was always a Man United, there was always a Liverpool and Arsenal. There was never Spurs. But now, when you're seeing the knockoff shirts, you know that's when you're sort of moving to be a bigger club, and especially with the Kanes and the Sons, and we've had the Gareth Bales, etc. It gets the kids into the football as well, and I think that's when you can start judging if you're a big club or not, because when you're going out and you're seeing the shirts everywhere, and the young kids are, I want to be Harry Kane. That's when sort of the club's profile grows, etc. And we've grown in the United States as well, and internationally we've grown. So I do think we're up there now as a big club.
I do, but I think to answer Tim's question, in my opinion, what separates us from Chelsea
Honours
is the trophies that you've won. And pre the Abramovich era, I think there weren't a lot in it. You was always better than us. You'd always used to beat us, and you probably used to finish above the league in the league a bit more consistent than us. But since Abramovich has come in, the consistent spending each summer, the consistency in winning things, that's what separates you from us at the minute. And I hate to say that, but you've got to be based. You've got to judge yourself whether you're a big club or not on what you win inevitably for me.
100%.
You know what's so weird about this is when I was growing up, Spurs was such a bigger club than Chelsea. Really were. I mean, you were just...
Yeah, I believe that, yeah.
You had all the best players, and you know, in that 80s era, you know, I remember the Argentinian fellas coming over, you know, Ozzy and Villa coming over and all that lot. It's a great club, and then you kept on going. And then at one stage, there was, I believe, Roman Abramovich came and had a chat about buying Spurs.
He did, yeah.
Right, and Bates managed to get him at Stamford Bridge. And Bates, apparently, we were out of money. That was it. We were gone. We were like literally gone as a club. And Bates managed to say, but he didn't sell him the pitch. So we still all own the pitch.
Yeah, didn't Bates sell parts of the pitch to the fans? Isn't it something like that?
So we have a Chelsea pitch owners. So I mean, it's
how many blades of grass do you own, Tim?
I've actually got 2 shares. Helen Chamberlain from Soccer AM bought me one, and then I think the club gave me one once as a present. But it's like I don't know what you own, like a centimetre of the pitch or something. But it means it can never be sold. And recently, Roman wanted to buy them all up, and it was really weird because the club approached me and said, "Look, I think I might have just still been at Soccer AM," and the club phoned me and said, "Look, can you tell everybody to sell their shares?" And then Chelsea pitch owners approached me and said, can you tell everyone not to sell their shares? We don't want to do it because we don't trust what's going on. And I was stuck in the middle of this, and I was going, I'm not getting involved. Fuck it, I'm just not, I'm
You're supposed to be the man of the people, Tim.
Well, yeah, I mean, now you look at it, I don't know. It's a tough one because he's put so much money into the club, and look what we've got from off the back of it. And we've had some amazing nights, and I'm going to show you something in a minute, which you're going to love. But we've had some amazing nights there. But then again, do we want to just keep? I mean, it's worked for us just to keep getting rid of the managers. But I mean, I remember being so upset when Vialli was sacked. I love Vialli. I mean, what a great manager.
Yeah.
He's such a lovely bloke, Vialli. And when he was sacked, I was absolutely devastated. And it's really hard now as a Chelsea fan, to any Chelsea fans who listen to this, will understand. But you never get attached to a manager because you just know they're going to just be gone. You know, Conte came, we were like, oh, I love Conte. He's great. Gone. Everyone, they just sacked willy-nilly. And yeah, there is a lot of player power. And I think Jose talked about that last time he came to Chelsea. And I think he was talking about it at United. And he's probably got it at your place as well, where the players, he annoys them now, doesn't he? And now players are worth... What's Messi got now? 123 million quid a year or something he's being paid. I mean, when players are, I don't know how much Kane and that lot are on, but when they're on that much money, you know, Daniel Levy's got to look after them, hasn't he? Because they're assets to the club.
Well, this is what I feel.
So I was just going to say, doesn't want Harry Kane to leave and go to United or Chelsea or someone else.
Well, this is what I think happened at Man United. It got to a point where the board had to look at it. It's going to be Pogba and Mourinho because there was that clash of egos between himself and Pogba. And obviously, Pogba, World Cup winner, has the potential, as we know, to be an absolute world-class player. And from a commercial aspect for Man United and shirt selling internationally and the commercial endorsements when you've got Pogba on your roster, is going to be factored into all of these decisions making. And if there's no harmony in that dressing room, but we said this evening when we went on our nightly walk that we like to do about this is the first time I've seen him sort of step back. You watched the press conference earlier, didn't you?
Yeah, what I'd say about this has been very interesting to me. This is a battle that Jose Mourinho's lost this month because he throws Dele Alli out, and I'm just going to talk about Dele Alli. He throws Dele Alli out clearly, wasn't involved in his match day plans, played in the FA Cup, was our best player on the pitch, not involved in the next game. He wanted him out the door. It was clear, yeah? Things have gone on behind the scenes. And I would guarantee that he was expecting his chairman and Daniel Levy to back him there. And he obviously hasn't. Now, if you're looking at the maximum sell-on for Dele Alli for me, it makes sense for Daniel Levy to send him to PSG, get a bit of form to get that value back up. He hasn't done that because I genuinely feel that Daniel Levy wants Dele Alli to be a part of these plans at Spurs. And I also feel that he thinks that Jose Mourinho, there's a big possibility that if this form continues with Spurs and these results continue, that he might be out of a job and he might be having to replace him. And in doing so, you don't want to let an asset like Dele Alli go. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the biggest problem with Spurs is your great players in recent years have always had to leave, haven't they, to go and win something? So Berbatov or Teddy Sheringham or whoever, but they go off to
He
United
says that
somewhere.
tongue-in-cheek there, Tim, doesn't he? He can't wait to throw it in.
little jab there.
He does. I love that.
Hey, I'll tell you something which I've noticed recently, though, is on Sky Sports and the pundits. They were very complimentary about Jose when you were top of the league at the beginning of the season. They were all going, Jose's great. That you can see he's got a system done. Now he started losing and he's lost quite a lot, hasn't he, recently? You can see them starting to turn on him, and you just watch the way people are talking about him, and they're kind of scared to talk about Jose because he attacks them. As Jamie Redknapp found out once. But I was listening to Graham Souness on the TV the other day was going, what's Gareth Bale doing? Why isn't he angry with him? Why isn't Dele Alli angry with him? And then Harry Redknapp's on TV going, why isn't he playing the good players and stuff? And you can see people starting to have a go at Jose. He won't be happy about that at all. And it's weird that I think they're sensing blood now. They're sensing it's in the air.
But they really are, like you said. Like even the other day with Harry, with what he said about these boys ain't fit to do the shoelaces of Gareth Bale. He's a terrific talent. He's a great talent, as Harry was saying the other day. But yeah, his response to it wasn't to bite to the media. It was today coming out and saying that we need Dele Alli. As an outsider watching, and Dele has popped up against your mob a few times.
Yeah, he loves it,
he scored some great goals against your lot. So as a Chelsea Chelsea fan, and again as a football fan, does Tottenham need Dele Alli in their starting 11?
I don't know how you could not play him and Gareth Bale, or they're not getting regular appearances in the team because they're both absolutely superb. I mean, obviously Gareth Bale hasn't played for years apart from golf because of Zidane, but you know, it's like he's not become a crap player. Do you remember the first season of Harry Kane when he started knocking in goals for Spurs and all those dumbass pundits were going, "Oh yeah, but can he do it consistently?" And you're like, going, "This guy's scoring for fun. Of course he can." And then but because he was English, they were like,
one season wonder.
Yeah, one season. Can he do this consistently? It's like, of course he bloody can. Look how good he is. Can I ask you a question, actually, whilst I've got you here? Your stadium, I went there to watch NFL. It is incredible. I love that great big sort of bank up one side there. Does it feel like home?
Not yet, no. I wouldn't say so. And that's simply because we've not been in there long enough because obviously the pandemic. I think the last game I saw there was when we got knocked out by Norwich and Eric Dyer decides to do like a Stone Cold Steve Austin WWE. Oh my God, Austin's in the crowd. Then goes out to try and have a row with someone.
What was that about? That was weird, wasn't it?
Very strange, very strange. But even Jose was like, kind of backed him on that. He liked it. But it doesn't necessarily feel like home just yet. We've had some all right nights in there. I suppose beating Man City 1-0 there on the Champions League night was a great night. And other than that, because we're coming towards the end of the Poch era. That it's such a shame we didn't get full class Poch in that stadium. Because when we was going in to watch the games there, I'm a season ticket holder, and you know they were those really weird games where like Eriksen had kind of down tools a little bit and wanted out, and we just didn't do anything for 80 minutes, and we'd nick a 1-0 victory. So yeah, it doesn't feel like home just yet. It's amazing, and I'm sure once we're back and it's all flowing that it might feel special. But White Hart Lane was a special place,
most definitely. But if with that question there, Tim, if it's about atmosphere, the atmosphere is unreal there. It's not about atmosphere. It's definitely they've got the wall behind the goal. I think we just need to, as Kev touched on, that end of Pochettino's era was there. You're seeing the football at times under Mourinho when we've been in there, fans not being in there, so it's a bit hard one to gauge that. Just off that subject, Tim, I have to get onto him. I always ask our guests about Harry Kane. You being a proud Englishman, what are your thoughts on Harry Kane? Because for me, he's absolutely brilliant. As Spurs fans, we love him, we adore him. He's one of our own. As a Chelsea fan, but a proudish Englishman, as I said, what's your thoughts on Harry?
I love him. Scores for fun, top man, and he's not he's not out there, is he, in the nightclubs? Well, no one is at the moment because of the pandemic, but he's not out there in the nightclubs. He's got his feet on the ground. He's a great striker. He's kind of he's a different sort of player, but he's a Gary Lineker. He's just going to keep scoring and scoring and scoring, and he clearly loves playing football, and he loves his role there. My worry is that someone's going to get, for you a lot anyway, someone's going to get in his ear and say, mate, you need to go and win something, and you need to go and get yourself to another club. And you can see it hitting the press at the moment, the news, and you're like, and everyone thinks he couldn't do that. But, Sol Campbell did it. And
don't mention that name on here, Tim.
He's killed us there, look.
The case, look. See,
I'll tell you what, Tim, you're 2-0 up now.
He didn't want to come on a Spurs podcast. He did. He's had these for years ready for the jabs.
2-0 up.
No, but yeah.
It's true. It's true.
The captain, our own captain did it to us, Tim. We are like a bruised animal to some degree. Like that guy that just gets cheated on by the girl all the time, and then they like come back and you're like, I guess she could come home to us, it's fine, I'll make you dinner. Like that's basically like us at times. And that's the thing, like as we always say, and we pride ourselves on this podcast of being realistic Spurs fans, because we have had so many near misses. We know where we're at. And literally at the start when we launched the podcast, there was a few people that are like, oh, a bit negative, that name, innit? And like literally they're on our comments going, you're spot on, lads. Yeah. We'll see why you called the podcast the podcast. Yeah. I'm like, we'd like it to flip to be when it's like, Man United in the 90s, same old Man United, always winning. But unfortunately, we're at that position with Spurs at the moment. It always just ends up being the same. Only Spurs can make Jose Mourinho, who's the most revered manager in club football, like look terrible. Well, Man United did it as well, but he still won with them. What was you going to show us, Tim? You was going to show us something when we was talking about Chelsea.
Don't make it 3-0 though, Tim. You're 2-0 up. You can't be too harsh.
When I said to you, are you videoing this or doing audio? And you said, I would do video and audio. And you were saying, why? Because you need to do your showbiz makeup or not. And I was like, no, real reason is I've got something here which people who are listening to this are going to struggle because I'm going to show you something. But I never get a chance to get this out, so I've got it off the wall from downstairs. Hold on a sec.
Oh, I'm looking for it.
Kev, quick, get the 1991 FA Cup picture that we want.
Oh.
I told you.
These gents, can you still hear me? I'm a bit far away from the microphone.
Yeah.
These are the actual ribbons off.
Wow.
Trophy, the Premier League trophy, 2005, and look at that, it's pretty cool.
Oh, we're still in the mix for that trophy this season, Tim. We can still win it. We got to believe, haven't we?
I'll tell you the story. When I was on Soccer M, the bloke used to come down with a cup, right? And on TV, you always get the cup sitting there. You talk about it. So one day I wandered over and I started touching the cup, and he went. And he went, get your fucking hands off that, get your hands off it. And I went, oh, mate, it's a piece of metal, it's a cup, what are you worried about? And he went, you're not allowed to touch that. And I got angry, I went, I'll go fuck yourself. I was in the middle of doing it. And I was really, after the show, I'm not like that at all, but it just got me, I went to the guy, do you know what, I'm really sorry, you're only doing your job and I'm being an asshole. I'm really sorry about that. And he said, no, I was a bit harsh with you, whatever. Anyway, Chelsea win the league. And then next time he comes down the show, because he always brings the cups, whatever cups it is, with his white gloves on. He said, I got you these are the ribbons off the cup. I was like, I can't believe it. He said, after they gave the cup back, I took the ribbons off and I bought them for you. I've got no proof that they are, but I promise you they are the actual ribbons. And I just think it's a great bit of merch, or memorabilia. That's fantastic, isn't it? So I got them all framed and stuff.
That's
We've got loads of them. We've got loads of that type of memorabilia over the Spurs.
We've got the semi-final.
Loads of ribbons.
The semi-final in Ajax, fantastic.
Yeah.
We had that the other day. Someone put like a print in our Spurs group of like Mora and like the commentary underneath it. I went, but we didn't win. Like I don't want to see that. We didn't win it. Like it's completely redundant. We did not win.
People putting up.
Me and Gaza have winners mentality, so it's just like for us that's not good enough. Like we didn't win. Why are you like making this? Imagine me having that on my wall. Like you've pulled that out, and I go, oh, by the way, Tim, this is what they said when Lucas Moura got the hat trick in the semi-final. We lost to Liverpool in the final.
Yeah.
that season though, you got to admit that ride you lot went on that season was
brilliant,
unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, the football you played was just superb. Every other fan was looking on and going, God, Jesus, look at this Spurs team. You were amazing. Got great to watch, and so I mean, a hell of a ride, all right?
Oh, mate, but that's why it comes back to what we said about. Do you just want to win the Carabao Cup in a terrible style, or actually be entertained? Because I know, as I said, back to my dad. Both of us, our dads play a major part in our football lives, and my dad has seen us win stuff. So he's like, I don't care about winning things. I care about how the style of football is. And right now, I'm not watching that shit. He goes, I'm not watching Chelsea. Like my godfather, as I mentioned to you, is a huge Chelsea fan, home and away. So shout out to Nick. And so for him, Spurs versus Chelsea is a big game for him because his best mate's Chelsea. So he's just like, I can't watch that Thursday. We're going to get rolled. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it is back to that idea of, is it about winning? Is it about playing good football? It's finding that balance, isn't it? And I do think that, unfortunately, we have to admit it, like Chelsea have found that in recent years of good football and winning.
They've spent a lot of money in doing it, though. They have spent a fortune in trying to get
100%. We all need a rich Russian, Tim.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, true. What do you think about playing Chelsea then? Were you all right? Because obviously Arsenal are your big rivals. It's such a big rivalry, that North London one. Where do we fit in your world of hating fans?
I'll be honest with you. I speak to a lot of obviously fans of the podcast, and you're not far away from being the main rival, Tim. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of hatred towards Chelsea. A lot of bitterness towards Chelsea. There must be from Chelsea towards Spurs as well, Tim. You've killed me 3 times already on the podcast. You've got the picture out. But nah, in all seriousness, tomorrow's a big game. I think it's a big game for you
both
guys.
Clubs.
I think it's a big game for us. Hopefully, we can get back to winning ways. Without Harry, I find it difficult to see us doing too much there. But what's your thoughts on the game tomorrow, mate?
Do you know, you just can't. I mean, obviously, I like to think we're going to win because we look like we've got the better squad. We've got a new gaffer in. He seems to have shored up the back now, doesn't he? So it's going to be tough to. We believe he's a tactical mastermind. because he's come from Europe. But so I'd like to think we're gonna win, but you just don't know in these matches. I just want to say one thing though, quickly, is just made me think there. This Super League thing that they keep throwing around, where the teams are wanting to break away. I don't think it's going to happen now because FIFA and UEFA have put their foot down and said they don't want it, don't they? But there's such a crap idea, isn't it? Because when Chelsea go and play, I don't know, Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or whatever, it's a great game, but nothing beats playing Spurs. I mean, nothing beats playing Spurs or Arsenal or West Ham
Definitely,
or United or Liverpool.
Are you trying to say that we wouldn't be in that Super League, Tim? He's trying to do us 4-0 on a slide. He's trying to slide us there.
We need to get one back here, Kev.
Yeah, but do you know what? It's just such a great thing, isn't it? London rivalry, Premier League rivalry. I mean, I'm so happy Leeds have come up because I don't know if you know about the Chelsea-Leeds rivalry from the 70s, but all through my childhood, it was just great, Leeds matches. And when they came up, I was so excited. And I'm so glad they've come up playing great football. I mean, they could smash Chelsea or Spurs or anyone the way they play or lose 6-0. It's just great to have them in the league.
100%. They're too big a club not to be in the Premier League. Equally, the likes of, obviously it's been a while now, but Nottingham Forest and Ipswich and those kind of big clubs. It's crazy looking at the Championship, the amount of big clubs that are in that mix up now, and that sort of prize of getting into the Premier League is so sought after. That playoff game in the Championship is so big now. Like, that's worth more money than trying to get a Champions League place at time to get into the Premier League. Like, even watching the Championship's exciting. I do follow the Championship quite a bit. I've got a few friends playing different clubs there, so I do follow it. It's just, like you said, the idea of the Super League for me, no good. That's what the Champions League's for. And like you said, even back to Spurs and our rivalries. For me personally, like with Chelsea, I do hate Chelsea to a degree because you always kibosh us. So I'm talking like when we're, over Wembley, when it was 2-2, we lost 4-2 when Son's playing left wing back. That made no sense, that game. I remember sitting in that at Wembley at what's that like corporate level at Wembley where it's like mixed fans. And basically I think there was like some proper Chelsea in there as well that had luckily slipped through the net and got a ticket. And like my old man's in there as well, and he's old school Tottenham. He used to go home and away and all that. It's like it's kicking off in the corporate. I'm like, Dad, calm down, man. Like it's Wembley. It's not that. He got told to like cover up his colours and everything. So you're right. Like that rivalry, that energy. I remember being on the train and it was just full of Chelsea, and we're just like trying to hold it down. Yeah. That you're not going to get that with Chelsea Bayern Munich, are you?
No. No, going to your ground is the worst thing ever. It's just the old one. It's just such a long walk to get there, and the new one. Jesus Christ, you have to. I mean, there's no way to get in that place, is there? In and out of that. I mean, they've got that new Have they attached it to a station or something?
Meridian Water's there now to make it. That's opposite IKEA. So if you fancy a little IKEA shop beforehand, feel free to do so, Tim, because you can get to IKEA.
We do also have a lovely chicken shop on the high road called Chick King. If you want to get in there, $2.99, 2 pieces of chicken and chips. Fantastic, isn't it, Kev?
Oh, so good that Chipmunk put it in a lyric once.
Yeah, exactly.
Chick King. That's very good. But it's not the easiest ground to get in and out of Tottenham. But back to what we're talking about, rivalry. It's kind of like, it's weird because like West Ham and Spurs, there's obviously a thing that's very terrace-based. Yeah. Right? That is very much between the fans. Because, like, in terms of footballing, like, I look at West Ham like, I'm not watching you, bruv. Like, we're worried about Arsenal. And they're like, like your little brother who hates you. And like, bruv, I'm playing with the older brother here. Like, bruv, go over there. That's kind of like with the West Ham rivalry. But that is very fan-based, you know what I mean?
What do you think tomorrow, then?
Again, you can't, listen, you cannot predict the Premier League at all right now. You didn't think Man United are going to get beaten by Sheffield United the other week. You didn't think Wolves are going to do Arsenal yesterday, and they do. You don't think Tottenham are going to draw with or lose to Brighton, and they do. You couldn't do an accumulator in this Premier League era. It's very difficult, and I do think obviously not having fans in the stadium is a huge part of that, because tomorrow night with the new gaffer there, Tottenham coming over with Chelsea, you got fans in that stadium. It's a complete one-way traffic for me personally.
Yeah, be interested to see how Tuchel goes tomorrow, Tim. I know it was interesting his team selection in the first game. He made an example of Mason Mount. Would you say that was accurate? He made an example there. It's a frank player, Mason Mount, isn't it? He went a little bit. He went with the old guard, didn't he? Sort of the tried and trusted, a bit of experience in there. Got a draw in the first game, you win your second game. Be interested to see what team he goes with tomorrow. As I said, it's such a hard game to predict. Very, very tough.
I hope we get a game of football against each other and don't just sort of shark shop. I always hate it when that happens, but obviously that's one of the things Jose likes to do, isn't it? Shut up shop sometimes.
Well, I think there's so much pressure on him now to try and not do that. But he is that stubborn that he probably will. Just want to touch on quickly. You mentioned you played with Glenn Hoddle. Obviously, he was talking about how much football you used to play. I just wanted to talk to you quickly about that. Where was you playing?
I wasn't playing football with him as in at his level.
No, but you got to play against him.
I was a half decent player as a kid. Played a lot of Saturday football. Played a bit for Northwood, and then played for Amersham Town and stuff like that. But I played in a few charity matches, and I ended up playing against Glenn Hoddle. And I've got to say, he was at Swindon at the time, and he was player manager.
Player manager, yeah, at Swindon.
Yeah, I think he still had his boots on, or maybe he'd come to Chelsea by then, and it was back at Swindon. I can't remember. My memory for dates is terrible. But I remember marking him. Well, I say marking him, and he controlled the ball, and he was 10 yards away from me. His touch is absolutely incredible. I mean, it was amazing. He could, obviously, as we all know, he can hit the ball with both feet. And I've heard so many stories about him because, if you ever watch any old footage of the guy, it's completely two-footed, can shoot and score, brilliant. Pass. His passing range is off the scale, Glenn Hoddle, as your dad will tell you. Unbelievable player. But when he was England coach, I remember, I think it was Robbie Fowler or someone telling me that he'd say to the guys, right, what you want to do, get the ball, control it, and then there's a target over there. Hit that target right foot, and then get the other ball, that target over there, hit it with the left foot. And Robbie said, most of the team would look at each other and go, I'm not even sure I can hit it with my right foot, let alone my left foot. But Hoddle went up and showed them how to do it, first of all. And then he said it was so intimidating because Hoddle's skill was so much higher than anyone else in the England setup. That guy was unbelievable. And the other player you had in your team, who I play football with a load of time in charity football, is Mickey Hazard. Oh, what a player he is. Do you remember him?
Yeah, of course, yeah. He come over. He actually presented me with a cup once over Cuffley when I won a competition over there, five-a-side competition. The Mickey Hazard handing out the trophies. Was very, very happy with that. What I love about Mickey, he's a big Spurs fan. Do you know what I mean? He's very vocal on the socials. Met him a few times at a few different Spurs events, which we love.
Yeah, played for Chelsea a bit as well. But See,
4-0 on a sly. He's coming in with a sly digs to him.
I remember
we had Gus Poyet, all right? We took Gus off you, okay?
Yeah.
Gus is so good, isn't he? What a player, what a man, what a lovely gent he is. I was with Mickey Hazard once though, playing in a six-a-side game, like tournament thing at V Festival or something like that. We were there, and he goes, Mickey Hazard goes, right, he's an old man now, right? We're all both old men. I was maybe in my, I don't know, whatever, about 10 years ago, something like that. And he'd retired long before, and he came over and goes, Tim, come here. I want to show you something. He goes, I've learned a new trick. I want to teach it to you. I'm like, fuck off, Mickey. I don't want to learn any more new tricks. I've got enough. I've got the Cruyff turn, and that'll do me. You know what I mean? And he's like, he loved the game so much, he couldn't keep, he just wanted to keep going and playing. I love those players.
Yeah, definitely.
Listen, we ask all of our guests, especially the ex-footballers, and obviously because you played a bit, especially with the charity stuff as well, so you've got to play with some amazing players. We play on a Thursday night over Power League, yeah? Right? It's Thursday night. We're about to play the Tim Lovejoy FC, or the Lovejoy FC, because now you're just one word after my appearance on Sunday brunch at the weekend. You're just Lovejoy now. Yeah. You're in the team. Makes sense straight away. So you've got 4 other places with the players that you've played with, including the likes of Glenn Hoddle. You've got to pick the 5-a-side Power League team. Who's it going to be, Tim?
Well, you've got to put Hoddle in there.
Formation, Tim, we're going 2-1-1? 1-2-1?
Stick keeper?
Yeah.
All decisions very important for a 5-a-side.
Big time.
I'll have keeper. Who's a player? Keeper who can actually play out pitch.
He's thinking deep now, isn't he? Thinking if the keeper's got a bit about his feet.
Great shot. Can I tell you a good story? I'm at Wembley, right? I love all this crap because I have to pinch myself with this because I was half decent at football. I played a lot of games at these charity things, and I was at a Wembley thing, and in my team was Peter Beardsley and Ian Rush. And they were having a chat with me, and they said, and I would go, Tim, we got to get you a goal. Because I hadn't scored at Wembley. And I was like, yeah, right. So it was just this amazing sequence of play where Rush got the ball, passed it to me, Lovejoy to Beardsley. Beardsley takes it down the wing, and I'm on the edge of the box, and Beardsley is about to put it over, and I start running in, and Rushy goes, Oh, Tim, you've gone too soon. I've run in, the ball's gone over my head. Rushie's come in, back post, bang, straight in the back of the net. He goes, mate, you've got to listen to me like that. And I just thought that is the difference between a striker and me. You know what I mean? It's all about timing. So I put Beardsley and Rush in the team.
Ooh.
Rush being the most amazing striker, and I've played with them both. Who else am I going to say?
So we got Hoddle, Lovejoy, Rush, and Beardsley. One more on this. On that's a good team, isn't it?
team.
Not very defensive, though.
You're looking for a defender there, surely, Tim. You've got to have a defender in that.
No, I don't put any defenders in. I'll tell you, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, Razor. I'll stick Razor Ruddock in because he's a Spurs player and was a Spurs player as a quick story here. I love this. One thing I hate about football is the contact's gone out of the game. I used to love watching the players get stuck in and that lot. And Razor Ruddock was playing I love Razor, top man, and he was playing in a tournament in Anfield. It was like a select 11, and I played in it versus Liverpool legends. And I kept on saying on Soccer, there's a team of Liverpool legends, and Razor Ruddock's playing for them as well. God knows how he's got a game, right? And I kept saying this constantly. I get into the dressing room at Anfield, and there's a little thing on my thing going, Lovejoy, you're going to die today, right? And I get on the pitch and we're playing around a bit, and then one point I get the ball, Razor comes in. I've never been hurt so much by a tackle as Razor. Like he walks away with his hands in the air, and the ref's going, all right, your yellow card, you're booked. And you know what? In those days, I reckon I've spoken to Michael Owen about this. You had to be so hard to play a footballer in the 80s and 90s because the tackles which would come in, they were hard tackles, hard men playing, Roy Keane's, Vieira's, there was so much. Nowadays, they can't tackle anymore. As Javi Alonso said at Liverpool, he couldn't believe it when we were when he came to the Premier League and he was reading the programmes, and the youth team would say, I'm good at tackling. He goes, well, who wants to be good at tackling? If you're tackling, there's something wrong in the game. You shouldn't be tackling. And part of the British game was always, or the English game was always the tackles. They've completely taken it out of the game. And I reckon Sunday League football is harder now to play in than the Premier League because no one tackles each other like they used to. And I think as fans we're really missing out on that. But I sound like your dad now.
Tim, a tackle that stands out for me. You'll remember it. I think when Wimbledon won the FA Cup final against Liverpool, and literally the first minute, Vinnie Jones just goes and puts one on Steve. It's unbelievable. Like he nearly took him out. It was like one of the worst tackles I've ever seen. The game's changed, mate. For the better or worse, up to you.
On my podcast this week, which I like to promote because it's football as well.
It's by the way, it's the A to Zidane of football.
A to Zidane of football. Listen to it. It's I this week. You got any eyes for me, guys?
I said Iniesta, Ibrahimovic,
Inzaghi.
Oh, I forgot Inzaghi. That's a great one. Italian 90.
Yeah, or you can
I'm
go.
going to just find it.
Muzzy, is it? You can go down a level. Andrew Impey. I'll give you loads.
I used to love a little bit of Muzzy, is it?
Muzzy, is it?
Doesn't have to just be players. It can be any eyes. But we're going to speak to. I'm just finding where he's from. What's the organisation? The IFAB. They're the people who decide the new laws in football, and we're going to speak to them this week. So they want to speak because they want to voice it and say what the hell's because what the hell is going on?
Well,
I played football, and we all watched football for God knows how many years. With the laws were just the same, weren't they? Just the same constantly.
Yeah, universal,
now,
easy.
Every week, you don't know what the new law is. The pundits are all going, what's the laws? They don't even know. And so we're going to speak to them to find out why the laws are changing so dramatically all the time, who's putting pressure on them to do it and why they're doing it. And they just need to simplify the game again, don't they? If you're trying to win the ball, that's not a red card. It can be a clumsy tackle sometimes. Yeah. It's not all red cards. So I don't know. I'd really like football to go back to having that ability to contact and win the ball again.
When does that podcast come out? When does it? Is it a weekly podcast?
Yeah, Fridays. A to Zidane, sorry, of football. We're going to finish when we get to Zidane Z.
Will you get Zidane on the show?
When I get Zidane, well, the reason why it's A to Zidane is, in my opinion, Zidane's the greatest footballer there's ever been. And I mean, it's just so subjective, isn't it, that? But I've watched him play a few times. He's good with his left foot, good with his right foot, scored in important matches, important goals and quality goals. He scored with his head. And
done a lot more with his head in 06, didn't he? Oh,
yeah. And in the final, he headbutted someone, and it's got. I mean, like everybody else would have lumped him. Zidane went with his head because Zidane is so cool. He went with a headbutt. But I just think Zidane is just, there's something amazing about that player, and I think it's weird that everyone's going Messi and Ronaldo. I think they're amazing, but they're in an era where you can't tackle them like they could tackle Maradona. But I get Pele, Maradona, and then Zidane should be up there as well, definitely.
Tim, where can we find that podcast and the listeners as well? Where can we find that one?
Just all the usual places, iTunes or anywhere
Spotify,
else.
etc.
I'm always putting it on my social media as well, so you can find it there if you want to have a look at it. But yeah.
Listen, you got another day of homeschooling tomorrow?
Yeah, every day's homeschooling.
We better let you get your beauty sleep then, Tim.
All right, mate.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, mate.
It means a lot to us. As I said, like for a lot of us and the listeners, waking up to you guys on a Saturday morning was highlight. Just before it would get you in the mood, wouldn't it, for playing football at the weekend?
Brilliant.
Like it was an era. I think again for us, like you said about how great football was in the 80s. For me, football was great in the 90s. Even though Spurs we weren't great. Let's be honest. You know, we spoke to Darren Anderton last week. We're starting the first same old Spurs legends, and Darren Anderton for me is one of my favourite players at Spurs. He was such a great football player, and he had so much about him. And you know, in the 90s, Euro 96, World Cup 98, etc. You know, and the backdrop of that, and then when Soccer AM came along as well, and just had that moment, like you guys were just a big part of our childhood as well, like and teenage years.
Absolutely brilliant. As well, now we've done the transition into parenting.
Yeah.
Now it's on to Sunday morning. So it was Saturdays then, Sundays now. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Soccer M at the time in the 90s, it was the perfect storm, wasn't it? There was Britpop going on. There was, there was so much going on in the 90s, and the football was great. And people were still allowed to have fun with the game. And that was what was so great about it. There was so much laughing and fun and stuff to be had. And as the game grew, which it did do, players became further and further removed. You know that because you're mates with them. They can't do anything, can they? They're not like, you know, they've got to be really careful with what they do. And so, you know, I was talking about this on my podcast the other day. Paul Gascoigne said one day, we said, can you do a phono with us, Gazza? And he went, yeah. He said, I'll only do it if you get footage of, he was at Borough at the time and he was rooming with Andy Townsend. He said, if you get footage of Andy Townsend blowing out the side of his mouth, and because he looks like he's blowing a trumpet, and I want to laugh at him. Like, can you believe this sort of crap you're doing a TV show? Where's the TV show you'd see that on now? So we dug the footage out and we put a trumpet noise on it. So it was going as he breathes, and Andy Townsend does blow out the side of his mouth. Paul Gascoigne couldn't speak, right? Gazza couldn't speak because he was crying so much. And every time we asked him a question, he'd go, show it again. Brilliant. And that's why people love the game, and that's why they love Soccer M. It was just so much fun, you know. We just had such a laugh with it. Glory days.
You and Helen's chemistry was just incredible, and I think it took Soccer AM a long while to recover from, obviously, you know, you leaving and then Helen. I think they're in a good place right now, though. I think obviously Jimmy's brought a lot to the Soccer AM fold. I think Jimmy Bullard. I think he's good on
Jimmy's
there.
Fun. I know you got your own show on BT Sports as well now, Tim. That's great.
Well, yeah, I used to. It's not there anymore.
That's a shame.
I did it for a while, and that was good fun. I went to BT Sport when they were setting up and everything, and it was a good laugh to do all that sort of stuff. It's good to watch the channel set up and see how it all went. And they basically got all the European football, and I mean they got champion. They've got all the European football there, haven't they? So it helped them a load. They did a good job on that. So yeah, good stuff.
100%. But listen, Tim, thanks so much. Hopefully we can get one back with him tomorrow and beat Chelsea.
3-1 we'll take it.
We'll take 3-1. We're happy with the 3-1 with the amount of things you've pulled out on us tonight. So
killed us.
All right, I'm going 3-1 the other way, and we'll see how we get on. Yeah,
100%.
Tim, thank you, mate.
Keep your phones on tomorrow night.
Legend, Tim. Enjoy the homeschooling tomorrow, and yeah, we'll be tuned into Sunday Brunch on Sunday, where you should 100% be playing my remix again, I believe.
I've been playing every week now. I mean, that was so popular. And bizarrely, my little daughter, I'm homeschooling, every morning she's always walking around the house singing it. She loves it. She's actually learned all the words and the rap already.
Oh, amazing. I want to see footage of that.
Yeah.
All right, Tim. Thanks a lot, my brother.
Pleasure.
See you soon, mate.
Tim. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
mate.
Later, mate. Bye-bye.